Hello everyone, I'm Rezwan Chaudhary here. I'm working as IBPIP teacher at Abdul Kader International School in Dhaka, Bangladesh from last 10 years. Today we have a special guest. She is Ms. Bhavna. She has been teaching and she's been teaching and mentoring primary learners in several IB schools in Gurgaon, India from last 17 years. She has worked in manifold capacities and roles as an IBPIP practitioner. Currently, she facilitates English support lessons and assists ES students in the unit of inquiry lessons at the Pathway World School, Gurgaon, India for primary learners. She holds a master's in English literature and a bachelor's in education. She is a certified early childhood educator. In the pursuit of her goal as a educationalist. She is a Microsoft Innovative Educator expert, Flipgrid enthusiastic, and Adobe Creative Educator, CISO, WEC-led global school advocate, and so on. She is multi-talented, and we are very happy to have her in today's session. She's going to talk about a lot of things, strategies, and tools, and rest of the things she is going to just introduce herself also. The floor is for you now, Bhavna. Thank you.
Thank you. I if you can just open the PPT for me. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Rezwan, for such a warm welcome. And I'm here to discuss about the power of creativity in a classroom and how we can engage our learners and co-construct those learning engagements which are creative and engaging. We'll just wait for a second for the PowerPoint. And meanwhile, in the chat box, if everybody can just comment that according to you, what do you mean by creativity in a classroom? So it can be just one word or a phrase or maybe a sentence. What is creativity according to you in a classroom? So let's see if we can have and we can just read some comments. Expression. Okay. This is the Wakelet. We'll share this at the end of the session, but currently uh, we need the presentation, the PowerPoint. I think it's on your OneDrive, uh, your email ID, sorry. Yeah. So any other response? I'm not sure how many guests have joined. So let me just check. All right. So expression, with your why expression. Any thoughts? Rizwan, have you got the PowerPoint?
Not yet, miss. Can
Oh,
you check again?
it's on your Gmail ID which you had shared with me.
Yes.
I hope you have received it. If you can just refresh it once. We are just stuck with the slide, I think so. I've shaded like 2, 3 times. So, according to Vidya, she has written that creativity is all about expressions. But yes, beyond that, what else? When we say creativity, we actually think about, say, art, craft, how we can engage our students in something which can look really beautiful, right? So that's what we always think about. But actually, creativity is something beyond. It's not just creativity. Okay, Vidya says that creativity is the expression of ideas. Absolutely, creativity is about uh, expression. It's about your ideas, the thoughts which are flowing in your mind. Actually, according to the psychic learning curve, creativity is the ability to think about a task or a problem in a new or different way, or the ability to use the imagination to generate new ideas. It enables you to solve complex problems or find interesting ways to approach tasks. If you are creative, you look at things from a unique perspective, isn't it? So, if we are creative, we will always look for new perspective, and we will always keep looking for, okay, what can it, how can I make this thing little different, not like this, how can I make it in a different manner, right? We do not stick to one particular way. Now, I would like to ask the audience, how many of you always, choose to sit one side of the, you can say, bed, or well, you would really prefer, this is my side of the bed, I will sleep here. This is something part and parcel of ourselves, right? We always choose, okay, this is my seat, I really want to sit here. This is my corner. In my classroom, this is my place. So, what happens? Our mind has been designed in such a manner that we are constantly looking at one similar thing. We are following a pattern. Every day we are following the pattern. So, following that pattern, our brain gets equipped to following a particular system, and every day we are doing same particular thing. We never think about change, do we do not. We constantly talk about, okay, I have to do this thing, I have to get up in the morning, I have to do this task, follow my routine. We are constantly doing that. And so we also ask our children, and we actually design them, we actually foster that, the same thing in them as well. We actually make them, okay, this is the pattern you need to follow. So unconsciously, we are actually not creating our students very creative, right? We are actually asking them to do something regularly on everyday basis, right? We are constantly asking them to do something which is there in the system. We are not finding ways to make it different, right? So, how can we manage to create something? Just 1 second, Rezwan. Sorry. So, constantly we are doing that, and to get some freshness in our curriculum, to get freshness and to make our students more creative, what we need to do as teachers, what we need to, I would really pause here for a second and ask my fellow friends that What can we do as teachers? Can I get some ideas, please? What can we do as an educator differently so that we can create better learners, so that we can make our children more creative? So I'll pause here for a second, and I would really want some responses in the chat box, where teachers, educators who have joined us today can share their thoughts over here. Rizwan, you can let me know if you get any responses in the chat
Sure,
box.
sure. I can see Miss Tatina, she wrote be role models.
Okay, yeah, of course, we can be role models, definitely. Any other thoughts popping up? Please don't hesitate. I want this session to be really interactive and not just led by me, because I'm sure people from all across the globe and people, whoever is joining us, do carry some treasure of experience, and definitely you will have something great in your inbox. So I would really want it to be extremely interactive. Any other response do we have?
Yes, we have got from Tatina again. Give choice to our students. Give them some space to showcase their ideas.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, giving choice. That's what I wrote for my descriptor. Giving choice is really important. How we are planning our engagements where the learning goals can be co constructed. That is very important. If we try to teach our students in a way we were taught, we will actually rob their future, because we do not know what the future be like, right? So of course we have to think differently. So any other thoughts on? Okay, Vidya says it has to be really provoking. Yes, the engagements have to be thought provoking. To be creative, students should be stress free, of course. The more you will give them opportunities that yes, you can do this, and there are no boundaries, like we say, that we always tell our students, think out of the box. But what is that box? Is there really a box? So we would rather say, think as if there is no box, there is no boundary. So you need to provoke your students to actually expand. And for this, what we have to do as educators, we have to constantly think. And in that thinking, we have to invent, innovate, and invest time. Like you all are investing time, so that maybe today I get something different which I can take back to my classroom, and I can come up with some fresh ideas, isn't it? That's why we all are joining here together in this evening, right? Because as educators, we are the designers. We are the people who are visionary, who are planning for our students constantly, because they are our future generation, right? We have to connect our learners, learning, so that they can constantly innovate something new. And in that process, as educators, we also need to innovate, invent, and invest. Invest is Definitely very important. Why? Because if you're not investing on your professional development, if you're not investing your time on encouraging your students to investing your to just upskill yourself all the time, can we always teach our students the way we were taught, or can we always teach our students what we did 5 years back? I don't think so. And especially in today's time, we can not do that. We can absolutely not do that. We have to find some ways to teach our children differently. And what is that different thing, right? We have to think about that. What is that different thing? Rizwan, is the slide ready?
Yes, it will take 1 or 2 more minutes. Is still
Yes.
download the
Because
videos.
I want to show that chart to
Yes,
everybody where we can actually take different approaches. And it's not just that a teacher, it's also the students who have to be engaged in this. It's not just me who has to go out and look for or find some new ways. We can always give this task to our students as well. And believe me, if you give them time, if you yes, Vidya, I think you just took away my words, time and space for the learners. Yes, if we give them the right environment, the right spacing, that is where we are actually generating uh, resourceful students who will be independent learners, right? We will be able to co-construct their learning journey together, and they will be more creative. If given a task, say for example, questions like what if we are using these kinds of questions, what if, where students have the power to imagine, then definitely they will come up with new ideas. They will definitely come up with something different and unique, and you will see how each student's ideas are different and they are not similar. You will see how. So for example, if you say, you give some circle cutouts to your students and you give some square cutouts to your students, and you ask them, okay, just create something from this, right? And you have given them some resources and you have asked them, okay, let's just create something. What you will observe, that each child will create a different object or a different unique model out of those cutouts. They will try to be different, they will try to be unique. Instead of saying, okay, today we are learning snowman, let's just create a snowman from those circle cutouts. No, not exactly. We should be doing that, right? We should be actually giving our students open ended tasks which can help them to expand their creativity, which can help them to think beyond, which will help them to foster creativity within themselves, right? So, this kind of engaging students in creativity can only happen if we are constantly, as educators, innovating, investing, and inventing new ideas. Now, if I teach my students the way I taught them 5 years back, I will actually not be able to do justice with today's generation. Now what we can do digitally through Zoom, and we can do things differently in our physical environment. Now things are different. Now, I have a response here which I would like to pause and reflect on. It should be like open form, and we need to be open minded to listen to the students. Absolutely. Being open minded is very important. If, as an educator, I try to boundary myself, I try to boundary that I have to teach tenses and it has to be done like this. These are the grammar rules and you need to learn like that. So that time I am actually not engaging my students constructively. I'm actually not engaging. Recently I observed a movie, where a short clip, where there was a teacher who was doing traditional learning, board. I will not say doing everything on board will is not a great idea. Sometimes we do need to use the boards and we do need to actually teach them how the system is like. But we can there are many different ways. So they were learning multiplication. What the teacher did, she brought a ball in a classroom, added the numbers to the ball, and started throwing ball to different students. Now whichever child got the ball in hand had to read out loud the numbers which were near to the thumb and multiply those two numbers. Now they are learning multiplication only, right? But in a different way. This is what creativity is all about. It's not that we have to uh, erase the curriculum which we need to teach our students. It is about how creatively we are putting that learning across and which can be transferred constructively in their day-to-day life. So we need to look at the real life situations. We have to look at what in future they will be requiring, right? What is that thing which they will be needing in future to be well equipped of, so that they can be better humans, they are able to live their earn their living, right? So some thoughts from the audience, please. What do you think now creativity is all about? Is it about only art, or is it about something different today we are going to talk about? uh, Rizwan, sixth slide. Yeah, thank you so much. So creativity, what is your approach as an educator? What are you planning? Can we put this on a yeah, slideshow, which will be like better? Yeah, thanks. So what is your approach as an educator? Are you a creative artist educator? Which approach are you using? Are you like an astronaut who likes their students to be very curious and like to explore everything? Or would you like to be some point card which is actually talking about strategic action, empathy, or like an hacker? No rules in my class. Let's break the rules. Let's find something new which focuses on divergent thinking and breaking systems and finding and innovating and inventing something new. Or maybe an engineer, someone who is constantly solving problems and finding solutions, or as an architect, creating models, learning from some creating some or designing some new building systems, or absolutely geek where the experimentation is going on and we are constantly learning. According to me, I think an educator should use all these approaches. They should use all these approaches and integrate these approaches to get the wow factor in a classroom, to make their classroom more engaging and creative. Can we move to the next slide, please? Okay, so the first one is the surprise element. When we want our children to be, curious and they want to know, yes, what is there? So there are different ways. Like for my language classroom, I make sure I keep a mystery bag before reading sessions or before a writing session. I would ask them, okay, let's look in the box or let's look in the bag. What's there? So if by chance my student has picked up a dog, I would ask a dog puppet or something. So I would ask that, okay, please let me know that what do you know about this? So the child will tell me what exactly they know about the object. It can be any artifact, it can be any picture of a map, anything in that box. and this can be used in different classroom as well. For example, in a mathematic classroom, if you're doing shapes, if you're doing some other numbers, they can pick up two numbers, then multiply, divide, and you can even ask them, okay, what can you do with these two numbers? Is there something you can do? Which mathematic or which number operation will you use to solve? Or can you create a problem sum using these numbers? So this is how we can make our task more open-minded. Sorry, open-ended, and we can actually involve our students in constructing their learning journey and their learning engagement. So this picture on my left is about a bear. So what I did, I just used a paper to hide my the name of the story, and I asked my students, what do you think the story can be? So everybody came up with different titles, and this is how I started my classroom, the language classroom, or my session, the read aloud session, in an interesting way where my students were ready to give that attention to me, what I'm going, because I selected the book for them. So how can I make it more engaging for my students? How can I make that thing more interesting so that they are interested, because they haven't chosen that book, right? Now I have to do something to create that bond, to create that connection between the tasks I have to do, right? So if I'm selecting something, I will make sure I am making sure that something is there for making them engaged and connected with that task that they should be interesting into, right? Next slide, please. Okay, so can you see this question mark? This wonderful question mark plays a magical role in class. You can create as many corners in your class as possible, and I keep changing my desk setup, and there are different objects placed and there is a question mark. I'll ask them, I'll keep those question prompts ready for them, and I will ask them, okay, what do you think? For this engagement, I had placed different, this was for one of the generation or short project, where I placed all these cardboards, because we keep getting our Amazon parcels and we have newspapers at home. And I really wanted to ask my students, what exactly can you do with this? Will you be winning it, or what exactly you can do as a responsible citizen? So they came up with wonderful creative ideas, and it was an open ended task. It was helping me enhance their communication skills and even the thinking skills and creativity, because they were fostering creativity right now. They were just thinking beyond that, okay, maybe I can create a bag out of this cloth, maybe I can create. And there was one child who actually told me, ma'am, I can create bookmarks. I will use the cardboard and I will use the cloth to decorate that cardboard, and I will come up with bookmarks. Some children said that, okay, with that newspaper I would like to create paper bags, so that we can keep our sheets in that instead of using plastic L-shaped folders. So there was some brilliant ideas over here. So question mark strategy, that wherever you can place objects related to natures, you can create, if you're talking about say rocks, you can keep rocks. So this way the teacher has to be creative as well, at the same time that how I want to create my learning center, how today, what new element I have to add in that corner, so that when my students come back and they should ask. So when my student came back and there was a recycling box, he actually told me that, ma'am, I'm curious to know what we can do with these all paper. And that example I will be showing you at the end of the session, what he actually did. It was an amazing learning journey. Next slide, please. Okay, question of the day. This is one of my favorite engagement, which I do with my students, or I am going for a guest speaker session. I definitely make sure that whichever day we are going to follow, we are doing a question related to that, and this really helps me to bond well with my students. each question's answers are different, and every time I make sure that I'm creating a different question. So if this time it is wisdom Wednesday, maybe next Wednesday it will be wordy Wednesday, where we will be exploring different words. So question of the day engagement really helps children to think differently and come up with new ideas, and also builds a bond between a teacher and a student where they are actually knowing each other. So if you're doing this, I have also added this to a resource, Wakelet resource, which I will be sharing at the end of the session, and you can use it as well in your classroom. It has multiple questions which can be used in the classroom, and this definitely enhances the creativity. It hardly takes 10 to 15 minutes before a lesson, and you can integrated with a particular concept. For example, make a change Monday. How can you make the world more magnificent? I use this question usually to introduce SDGs to my students, which are UN Sustainable Development Goal, the 17 goals. Whenever I am introducing someone or inducting it to the program of SDG, I use this question because something which you really relate to, something you are really passionate about, something you find, okay, this is a problem that I would like to improve. The child would be happy to work on that problem rather than I telling them that, okay, let's work on SDG 4, right? So it's always better to ask students what they feel, what kind of change they would like to bring, right? Next slide, please. Another interesting way is to use the graphic organizers. Now, Miro is an amazing application which can be used in the classroom, and it also helps in digital classroom as well, virtual classrooms, where you are adding a question in between and children are coming up with different thoughts and ideas. This can be done, for example, I use this for generating the conceptual questions from my students during the PYP exhibition. I had given them that, okay, this is what it is, that our topic is this is our we came up with a central idea, and then we had to plan our lines of inquiry. Now, how will we plan our lines of inquiry? Obviously it has to be connected with the concepts. So we picked up one concept each, and then each child framed one question related to the concepts. And if they had more, we added more lines to it. So this is a wonderful app which can be used in your classroom. Miro, the next one. Visible thinking routines and the thinking hats. I often use this before starting a story or during my week if I want to introduce a particular concept. So, for example, my unit which I had to start was about community, and I gave picture to them and I told them, okay, come up with a sentence, phrase, and word. Like today, I started my session with that. Please come up with a word which you can associate with creativity. And everybody was thinking about it. Okay, what is creativity according to me? Right? Which is very much open ended, right? And the audience or my students are able to connect well with it, and they are able to share their thoughts independently. Each thought is different. So some said family, some said and there was a child who came up with the word, right? So some child one of my students said togetherness. So this is how we built on using the visible thinking routines. Again, all the visible thinking routines I have added to the Wakelet collection, which can be used by you in your classrooms. uh, Thinking hat, six thinking hats, they also help develop the creativity and let the students think that what can I do. So for example, I did a story which was about pollution, and I asked my students, okay, please use the blue thinking hat, that is the hat of creativity. What can you do to reduce waste? Now, each student had a different idea that how they can reduce waste. Next slide, please. Okay, resources and materials. These are the most important thing which I feel should be available in the classroom and need a constant shuffle. You can't have same resources all the time throughout the year. They have to be different. Like I shared in the beginning of the session, many of us are just fixed with one place of sleeping. I want to sleep here. This is my place. Whenever you will be asked, okay, you please go and sleep on the other side of the bed, you will feel little uncomfortable. Why? Because it is a matter of change, and change is not easy. But if you accept change, you will see how creative you will become. According to neuroscientists, if we are constantly following one particular pattern, we can't be creative. If we try and change, we will become more creative. New thoughts will pop up in our mind. Try this. You will come, definitely, this is my tried and tested. You will definitely come up with some different thoughts. You will actually, for a while you won't be able to sleep and after a while you will come up with some different thoughts. Okay, how can I do things differently? And you will be thinking about it, right? Okay, so coming back to the slide, resources. So we were doing report writing, and I felt, how can I make this report writing more interesting for my students? Because most of the time, yeah, they really find it okay. The report writing, ma'am, we have to write. A topic will pop up, and we have to write. So I took a printout of the report, which usually goes news flash, monthly news flash, which goes, and I took out and I said, okay, let's label this news flash. What are the different parts of this news flash? What are the important things which we need to add in a news flash? Let's create a checklist that these things are supposed to be there in a news flash or in a report. So if you can see those bubbles around the news flash, my students wrote, ma'am, I think there should be a catchy title. What is there, the details, then what all things we need to write. We need to write date, we need to write who is there, when is this happened, why has this happened. We should end it with a interesting conclusion which is going well with the entire concept, and we have to wrap up beautifully. So I did not actually teach them how to write report. My task as an educator was to just get that report, a sample report, which they can observe and they can come up with ideas. And when they had to write their report, they were able to self assess themselves. And in education, in today's time, assessments play an important role. In fact, an integral role, because it helps us to plan better. It helps us to plan uh, beyond, okay, my student knows this much, now I have to plan the next step. So with this engagement, with this creative engagement, I actually did not teach them what they need to do. They constructed their own learning. They took ownership of their own learning and they expressed themselves beautifully. And now this learning will go beyond. It will stay with them because they have learned it themselves, right? Okay, moving to the next one. So spellings, sometimes spelling gets very boring for students. How can we make spellings more interesting? So we can use different ways, different resources to make spellings interesting. I've added this to my Wakelet again, which you can use, like how to use homophones and using flashcards with clip arts. Pictures play a really important role because children are able to relate what is there in the picture. So for example, one of my student was always struggling with because spelling, and I told that child, okay, let's learn this: big elephants can always understand smaller elephants. This was an easy phrase to learn, and now that child never makes the mistake writing because. So, this is how I make it creative for my learners. For example, creating some small pictures above. So, desert and desert. So, making a sweet above the desert we eat, and desert, the land which has lots of cactus and it is a barren land, and sand. So even we can ask students, okay, these are two words, now you create something, you make your own flashcard. Moving to the next one, another great way of doing vocabulary building is, raise one next slide please, thank you. Yeah, thanks. I'm just keeping you busy with me. All right. So, this is how we learned the water cycle plus the spellings. Now, how many of you believe that in in a language classroom we have to only focus on language building and not something else? So, I'll take a pause here for a second, and I would ask my audience that what do you feel? In a language classroom, are we only supposed to do spellings and not something interesting? How can we make our language classroom more interesting? So I'll just wait for a second here. Did we get any comment? Excuse. I think audience is more happy to listen, right? Okay. So what we did is we took a plastic bag, we added water to it, and we hanged it on the glass where direct sunlight used to come. And the next day, my students observed that, ma'am, we can see some droplets inside that plastic bag. And that's how we started our conversation, and we started learning about the water cycle, and also, excuse me. So, as you can see in this picture, how they came up with evaporation, precipitation, collection, and condensation, different words, and they learned these words by writing themselves and then organizing it step by step near that plastic box. Sorry, plastic packet. And this was a learning which they will be able to remember for a longer time, and they will be able to transfer their learning. And they were doing scientific principles in their classroom, the unit of inquiry. And I often make sure that it is important for me not just to do English language skills in the classroom, but also integrate different skills which can help them enhance their understanding. Next slide, please. Okay, so co-constructing, this is what we spoke in the beginning of the session. Like, co-constructing is very important. Whenever we are reading or writing, it is important to discuss about the reading success criteria. So what do you think? Why are we reading? What is the purpose of reading? Let us come up with some success criteria which we will be focusing on. So students, this is actually a Jamboard which can be used from the Google extension, and it is a wonderful tool which can be used in the virtual classroom, where students can use the sticky notes to express themselves. So in my classroom, I always make sure that we are co-constructing different success criterias, or we are co-constructing the learning engagements. Next slide please. So I have some thoughts in the chat box. Students need to learn reading and writing, listening, speaking skills. Absolutely. But how we can make it creative is up to us, right? So I gave them these pictures and I told them, okay, let's come up with a story. So this was from one of the newspaper, and I thought, let me just come up. And the catch to it was that you need to use your idioms, you need to use your descriptive words. So first they created a basket of words, and then they came up with the stories. So pictorial representation and giving picture clues are very important to the for the students to learn better. Next slide, please. Learning environment, we discussed this in the beginning as well. The learning environment plays a crucial role. Why? Because it will help them think differently. If we are going outside, why reading only in the uh, inside the walls? Why not outside the walls? And even when we are going outside, let's think of ideas how we can ask our students to connect well with the concept and then start the reading process or writing. Or maybe if you're doing poetry, let's just move out and discuss poetry. Let's talk about trees, let's talk about the land we have, let's talk about how grateful we should be staying on this land. So different question prompts will really help at designing your learning environment. You can, if not in the classroom environment, we can go outside, we can use different corners of our school. If digitally, we can use virtual tours, right? Which is my next slide. So, virtual tours, since we are in the digital setup, whenever we are reading or whenever we are writing, whenever we are discussing anything in an English classroom, I make sure to discuss about the place we are talking about. So, we use Google Earth all the time to visit that particular place and to read about that particular place, and so that my students are connected with what they are reading. Now, if I start reading about Alaska and I don't show them where Alaska is, they won't be able to make those connections. They won't be able to think creatively. And they won't be able to answer the questions which I want them to answer, right? Next one. Transdisciplinary learning. I'm sure being in IB, most of you must be knowing about transdisciplinary learning. So I received an invite for giving a poetry workshop. Now, I was thinking, if I do a poetry workshop and I have to showcase that learning of students, how can I make it differently? So I connected with my art specialist and I asked, can we do this thing that children are learning poetry in the classroom and we are focusing on the World Migratory Day? Can the students create pictures related to birds in your classroom? And then he said, yes, of course we can do that. And we did this transdisciplinary learning, and we created a booklet where children wrote poetry using any one bird. And in their art classroom, they created pictures of those birds. And this is how we created a pre-termer poetry booklet in which each and every child's book poem was published. Next slide, please. And this can be done with music as well. This can be done with different subject links. It's not just art itself, because I believe that creativity doesn't constrain to art. It can go beyond, like I showed you the approaches. It can be exploration, it can be creating curiosity, it can be problem solving. Now, people who are inventing, they are actually creative, that's why they're inventing, right? So moving to this slide, that is global collaboration. Now, how global collaboration can enhance creativity? So While we are presenting what we have learned, we are learning from our friends across the globe what they are doing differently. And when we share our different perspectives, we come up with something new, isn't it? Isn't that a part of creativity? Moving to the next slide. So, participating in global projects, please do not constrain yourself to only classroom teaching and learning. You can always engage your student in the global projects like Climate Action Project, Generation Earthshot Project, where they provide you with so many resources and they provide you with opportunities to collaborate globally, and we can learn from our friends across the globe. And for that, we actually need to thank this COVID time, because it actually raised the awareness of Zoom. It raised the awareness that yes, we can get connected anytime, right? So, yeah, moving to the next one. Teach someone. I love this one. I think Tatiana had mentioned in the beginning about this. So, teach someone is one of the most interesting way to generate and foster creativity in children. So, whenever we are learning, if we teach someone else, and it will not be the same way. So, if I taught my children some way, obviously that child will teach it the way they want to. And that is how they are showcasing their creativity, right? Moving to the next slide, please. So, what is happening? If you see Bloom's digital taxonomy chart, creativity is the most high order thinking skill. Why? Because we are making connection, we are asking questions, we are making observations, we are networking, and we are experimenting continuously. If we are doing that continuously, we are obviously enhancing our creativity skills, and which is the high order skill. Moving to the next slide, please. There are some resources which I have added to the Wakelet collection, that is STEAM resources, where there is an integration of science, technology, engineering, art, mathematics. So, STEAM is another great way. Using these lesson plans from STEAM helps you generate thinking, creative skills and thinking skills amongst your classroom. And then next one, Rizwan, this one is the video. I think you will have to share. I would request audience not to take screenshot of this because my student's face is visible in this. No, we have to play that video. Yeah. So this is how creativity happened in my classroom, and this is a great example. You must watch. Let's watch it together.
Miss Bhavna, as I download the PPT, is not showing, allowing me to play the video. Can you skip it?
Okay. Okay, we can skip it, but I'll just give a brief about it.
Okay, that's
It
great.
So this video is all about how my student came to the classroom, asked me, "Ma'am, why are these papers kept here and what can we do? I'm really curious. Please let me know." I said, "Let's find out. Why should I tell you? You find out. Let me find out with you." So, when we explored, we found out that with these papers, we can actually recycle these papers and create handmade papers. And then we started creating handmade papers. When we created handmade paper, there was a proper process to it. Being a language teacher, I had to think creatively that how I can help my child, my student, to learn language skills as well while participating in this engagement. Because I didn't want that, okay, this is a language class, you can't do this in my classroom. No, I can't do that. So I didn't want to, take away that curiosity factor from my students. So I planned. I said, okay, let me just plan it in a way. Let me do expository writing with the student so that the child understands step by step and every step the child will write. So we are doing writing, speaking, listening, and all the skills were getting enhanced with this engagement. So we started writing. Okay, what we need to do first? So I said, okay, then your first line should be firstly, because these are the steps of writing. Firstly, you have to read, then write, then, now. These are the words which are used for this kind of writing, where we are writing, doing procedural writing. So he said, okay. So we started with that. He maintained a log, and this process took us a week. And he maintained a log that, okay, firstly I did this, then I did this, I soaked the water, and then we, churned it in a mixer, and then we used a sieve to flatten it. And lastly, he got the face, and we created a handmade sheet of paper, and we made it cut out, and at the end he used a quote, that think before you trash, reduce, recycle, and reuse. So this is how his journey was. So we must plan our learning by doing. He was able to record his learning in a systematic way. So we did procedural writing. He was able to communicate the same thing, and we created a video like we do just a minute. The same way, his speaking skills were enhanced, and the presentation skills, because he was also side by side presenting it. And he also learned a quote related to this engagement, and how wonderful it is to actually bring creativity in the classroom, where students get curious and they want to do something, right? So this was a little brief. I will add this video for viewing purpose in my Wakelet collection, which can be viewed at your pace. Lastly, Rizwan, the next slide. So this I totally believe in, that our purpose of education and our school is to prepare our students for the future, future something which we haven't imagined, right? So that if they're stuck, they're able to think and find solutions themselves. And this is how creativity really enhances their thinking skills. If they are creative enough, they will get stuck in a problem, they will find some solutions in a creative way. Next slide, please. So this is my educator club. If you really want to join in, I this is desire to learn. I also keep doing a lot of webinars and invite teachers. You can follow me on Twitter for more ideas, and on Instagram, or email me if you want any kind of resources. I would be happy to help. Thank you so much. I hope everybody enjoyed today's session. Thank you so much, Rezwan.
Thank,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Bhavna. We have one exit ticket that I'm going to
Yes,
share here, and also we have certificate for you, Miss Asna Fine. She has prepared one certificate for you, so I'm going to share the screen and I'm going to show it to you. I hope you're going to love it. Can you see the screen?
it's just loading. Thank you. Oh, wow. This is beautiful.
And one for me as well. She has prepared
Wow.
for me.
This is
I'm going to send you
amazing.
in your WhatsApp
Yeah.
email also both. And
Yes.
we have
I want to
one. Yes,
just
sure,
thank Asna for, creating such a wonderful community of educators,
exactly,
where we are learning constantly every day from each other, because I believe I'm not just the one who knows everything or who likes to learn, and who is knowledgeable. I feel we all over here are talented people, because we approach each other from, we approach each other for new ideas, innovation, and we are
exactly,
ready to learn all the time.
exactly.
So thank you so much, and thank you, Rezwan, for just asking me for that, ma'am. Would you like to do it? I'm always
Yes,
happy to present.
Thank you,
and
thank you.
share.
And dear
I
audience,
put
we have one exit ticket for you. If you want to be a presenter here, you need to go to this exit ticket and you need to fill up the form. And also, what you have learned from this wonderful session that Miss Vabna shared with us. So you need to give your reflection that what you're taking away from this today's session. And if you want to be a presenter, you are most welcome. You just need to fill up the form. You need to write down your bio and everything. So I hope we are going to get a lot of presenter from today's session. And today we have learned a lot of things from Bhavna, and I was enjoying throughout the session. I have got some ideas how to develop the vocabulary skills for my learners as well. And I'm damn sure after winter break, we are now in the winter break, and after winter break, when we're going to start school, I'm going to apply some of the strategies, and I hope my students are going to love it. And I'll get back to you, Bhavna, what my students said about the strategies and tools. And I'm
I'll
sure
be
the other,
happy.
yeah,
I'll
of
be
course.
happy.
Thank you. And we are going to finish it within 2 minutes. Thank you so much, Bhavna, once again for being here and for presenting your all the ideas and knowledge about IB and about English language class, how to make it more creative way. And I'm very grateful to you that you accept our approach that you want to be here as a presenter. Thank you so much, and thank you all the audience to connect with us, to sending a lot of messages. I can see a lot of comments over here. Sorry, I could not read all these things because I was sharing the screen, so I could not read aloud. But I'm going to quickly show you what other audience said, so you can see on the screen. There are
Thank,
many of you have wrote a lot of things and interact with Bhavna and with today's session. And
thank
these are
you.
the some interactions. Yes,
Rizwan, if you can share the Wakelet link also in the chat box,
yes. I'm going
they
to
will
share
be
that.
able to, yeah, they will be able to, just uh,
Yes.
use some of the
So
resources because I
here is the
just
link.
read
Here is
some
the
of
link. So yes,
them.
you can see the Wakelet, and you can. She has shared a lot of resources, ideas, so you can get some ideas from her Wakelet. So I'm requesting everyone to go to the Wakelet and see what Miss Bhavna done for all the
Mhm.
educators.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
And now we are going
Rizwan.
to leave the studio, and all the audience, we are really grateful that today you have joined and stay with us from last 1 hour session. Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you so much. I hope to
Okay,
see you soon
bye-bye.
again.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night from Bangladesh.
Good night.